Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, or depending on what time you are watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. So last week, I saw a Frozen Empire, as in Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. And to get the taste of butthole out of my mouth, I went and saw some other movies since then, because I was not a fan of Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. This week, we're seeing a new empire. Literally, that's what it's called. Ghostbuster... Wow. Not Ghostbusters. Godzilla X Kong, the new empire. So this is literally a new empire. And you could even call this one a Frozen Empire if you wanted. There's parts where there's stuff freezing over. And I couldn't help but think, man, this is way more fun than the actual Frozen Empire I saw last week. Which again, was the butthole taste I had in my mouth called Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. I couldn't even do a video on Ghostbusters because I was just like, ugh, this... I don't even want to talk about it. I did not enjoy Ghostbusters, so I'm gonna move on from that because I don't even want to start thinking about Ghostbusters. Actually, you know what's funny about Ghostbusters? It actually almost put me off of the idea of going to see these big tentpole studio movies for a while. I literally left the theater. I was like, man, I don't know if I want to go see some of these cluster fucks of $150, $200 million budget movies because I just didn't have a good time. It just wasn't fun. So I thought about not even going to see the new Godzilla Kong movie. I was like, maybe I'll skip it. I was thinking maybe I'll just focus on watching some like more kind of indie-ish movies or just like lower budget. After I did see Ghostbusters, a few days later I went and saw Late Night with the Devil, which actually was really good. I recommend that one. If you have not seen it yet, if you like horror, you want to see a really good horror movie in theaters before it's probably gonna get taken down soon. Late Night with the Devil, that's actually a really good one. So I was on the fence though about Godzilla vs. Kong. I was like, I could maybe skip it and just see what the reviews are like and be fine moving on from that. A lot of the movies I'm excited for the rest of the year aren't even like these big budget movies anyways. But I said, you know what? What the heck? I'll go see it. It's playing in IMAX, and my whole thing is if it's playing in IMAX, I'll probably check it out. So I just got out of the theater about 15 minutes ago, and I must say, I had a really good time watching this movie. I don't know if it was low expectations going in. I don't know if it was just the idea of like, I'm really not a fan of CGI fighting. The whole like Transformers movies, which when I first saw this trailer, I thought it was a Transformers movie with the whole Kong's mechanical arm thing. And then I realized it was Godzilla Kong. I was like, oh, it's not Transformers. Okay. But anyways, something about CGI monsters fighting, I don't enjoy it. I'm not a fan. But for some reason, Godzilla Kong, and not just this new one, but the one that came out 3 years ago, I do enjoy it. I actually have fun with those movies. So my backstory of this series, I guess, going back to, I don't even know if it officially started in 2014. I really don't know what the continuity is with all this. But 2014's Godzilla, I saw in theaters. I was never the biggest Godzilla fan. I had seen the 1998 Matthew Broderick one in theaters. Maybe that's why I wasn't a fan of Godzilla. I don't know. I've always been a King Kong fan, like the original 1933 film, Peter Jackson. So anyways, back to sort of this universe where I thought they started in 2014. The Gareth Edwards movie. I really enjoyed it. One of my buddy's biggest criticisms, which kind of plays into this one, is that you don't really see a lot of Godzilla. I remember thinking, like, that was okay, though. I don't need to see a lot of Godzilla. I thought what they did with them was really cool. And I'll make a note, Josh, remember this, get back to not seeing a lot of Godzilla because that really comes into effect in this new movie. But I like 2014 Godzilla. Then the next one was 2017's Kong Skull Island. I freaking love that movie. I saw that opening weekend. I had some pretty big expectations because I knew this was the next part of this universe they were building. I think it was already established back then that Godzilla Kong was happening. And I just remember watching oh my God. I remember watching Kong Skull Island. I thought that movie was so much fun. Great characters. John C. Reilly steals the show. Really good action. And Kong himself was just badass. So Kong Skull Island is still my favorite out of all these. 2 years later, Godzilla King of the Monsters comes out. I was super excited. I was directed by Michael Dougherty, who made one of my favorite horror movies, Trick or Treat. And I was thinking like, all right, man, this is really gonna this movie is setting up Godzilla Kong. And I only saw it once. Saw it again, probably opening weekend, probably opening night. I was super excited and I was super let down. That is probably the one movie in this series I do not like. Every other one I like to an extent. Like I said, Kong Skull Island's my favorite. I love it. I really like the 2014 Godzilla. I'll get to the first Godzilla vs. Kong as well. But Godzilla King of the Monsters, I just did not have fun with it. The characters were not enjoyable. Characters were terrible, which will come back. That's another point I'll bring back. Josh, remember characters that don't come back in this movie that were established before, because that's another thing that I like about this new one. King of the Monsters, yeah, I just straight up I hated it. I did not like it. And my thing is, I'm Team King Kong. I do like Godzilla. I've been more of a King Kong fan growing up. And I was hoping King of the Monsters was going to set up King Kong, and it really doesn't. I think there's like a brief mention or a brief name on screen of King Kong, and that was it. And I was like, oh, that sucks. Okay, 3 years ago, the next installment, a couple years after that, Godzilla versus Kong. People were super stoked. I was intrigued. You know, this is really when movies started coming back from the pandemic, because that, if I remember, was like March 2021. Movies were just starting to come back, not even full effect, just like a little bit at a time. I think they still had like the seats, every other seat kind of thing. This was also when Warner Brothers was doing their same day streaming release. So basically, I went and saw Godzilla Kong in theaters, went home and rewatched the movie, which that was the first time in my entire life I had watched a movie and rewatched it at home the same day, which was weird, but it was kind of cool, actually. Again, I don't think I had huge expectations, but it was a lot of fun. And maybe because it had been a rough year of just no new movies coming out. So to finally have something big come out, to go back to the theaters, was great. But I had a good time. I remember I really enjoyed Godzilla vs. Kong. And then I found out, okay, they're going to do a sequel. Totally makes sense. Same director, which Adam Wingard. I like Adam Wingard. Actually went to the same school as him. Full Sail represent. It's cool to see Adam Wingard, who actually came from a background of horror. He did movies like You're Next, VHS 2, the Blair Witch sequel or prequel or remake or whatever you want to call it. But I've been a fan of Adam Wingard, and I'm not just biased because I went to the same school as the guy, but I actually enjoy the movies he makes. Oh, The Guest. That's another good one, which kind of ties into this new movie because Dan Stevens is the lead in The Guest. If you've never seen The Guest, good movie, check it out. But yes, Dan Stevens, he's one of the co-leads in this new movie, this new Godzilla Kong movie. Here we are, and again, I was on the fence with Godzilla vs. Kong, and maybe it was because when I saw Godzilla -1, I just didn't think I could see a better Godzilla movie in my lifetime moving forward. That was like the peak of me watching a Godzilla movie in IMAX. And I'm just thinking, like, I don't know if do I even want to bother with another American version of this? It's just going to feel so watered down. But I said, I'll probably have fun with it. And that's exactly what I did with this new movie. I had a lot of fun with it. As far as fan service, I'm not the biggest. I don't know a lot about Godzilla, but it feels like there was some good fan service moments. Now, going back to that 2014 Godzilla movie, and I mentioned my buddy said one of his biggest criticisms was that you barely see Godzilla, which is something I was okay with. Well, in this new movie, you barely see Godzilla. And that was something I was okay with. There really isn't a lot of Godzilla up until like the final act of the movie. He has a couple little scenes where he's rampaging through a city. That's really it. This really is more of a Kong movie than it is a Godzilla movie. Godzilla kind of does these little small things, and then he basically really shows up at the end and has his big fight. And that's really, if you're expecting a lot of Godzilla, you'll probably be disappointed. For me, myself, because I'm more of a Kong fan, I wasn't disappointed. I was okay with it. And the movie in general actually really takes its time just kind of setting up this big final fight. Because there's not a ton of huge action pieces throughout the movie, not a ton of huge set pieces. But what they do, I thought was really cool. I did think the first fight between Kong and the Scar Kong was really cool. I liked how they set up Scar Kong, and then the Frozen Empire Godzilla, I'll call him. I don't remember his name. But I thought that scene was really, really well done. I liked how he kind of kept them in the shadows, revealed them. I remember thinking like, oh, there's going to be something else even bigger coming, and then they revealed the frozen Godzilla. But yeah, this movie really takes its time. It's a really small cast of characters that you really focus on in this movie. There are some returning faces. Rebecca Hall as the main lead. Brian Tyree Henry, who's great. I love him. He's the comic relief. The most times I was laughing throughout the movie were his scenes. The little girl from the last one, the actress's name is, let's see, Kaylee Huddle. She plays Gia, the deaf girl. She comes back. I like her character. I liked her in the last one. I liked her relationship between Kong. There is a lot of focus on her and what she's going through at the moment. I would say she has the most character development in the movie. Dan Stevens is a new face. I wasn't sure going in if he was supposed to be replacing Alex Skarsgård from the last movie, because they kind of look similar, or if he's just a brand new character, and his character's name is Trapper. I'm pretty sure he's just a brand new character. Let's confirm it right now. Godzilla versus Kong. Alex Skarsgård's character's name, Nathan Lind. All right, so yeah, completely different characters. So Alex Skarsgård does not return in this movie. Not sure why. Never mentioned. Okay, Dan Stevens, good replacement. He's funny. He's likable. He had some fun scenes. He had some pretty funny scenes. Him and Brian Tyree Henry's chemistry was really good. And that's really it. That's who we really follow throughout this movie. They spend a lot of time in Hollow Earth, which for some reason going in, I thought it was called Inner Earth, but I guess I don't really remember that last movie that much. I did watch it, the 2 times, but I haven't seen it in the 3 years since it came out. But yeah, they spend a lot of time in Hollow Earth, which is cool. I like that setting. That's a lot of fun. We do get some cool city scenes. They go all over the place in this movie. They go from like France to Rome. The movie ends where they're in Brazil. There's some other places they go to, but there really is just a lot of scenes of this core group of characters, these core 4 characters, just exploring Hollow Earth, kind of finding out about Gia, the little girl, her tribe, because she's supposed to be the last member of her tribe. But we learn that she's actually not, that there's more of her people. And there is, it's not the biggest character development, but there's this relationship between her and Rebecca Hall's character, which was established in the last movie. So it's good to see that this is a continuation of that. It didn't just come out of nowhere. But, Rebecca Hall plays like the motherly character. So it's about her trying to be a mother, but then she has to kind of let go. And that stuff was fine. It's not the biggest. I got a little teared up at the end. I thought it was pretty good. I don't think it's going to be anything. You're there to watch CGI monsters fight, and if you can have a decent little character scene with your main leads, then great. And this movie does that, and that's perfect. But yeah, we're just kind of following these characters along. There's some fun scenes with Kong and basically like Baby Kong, I guess you can call him. When I saw that in the trailers, I kind of rolled my eyes. I was like, oh, really? Just gonna be like Baby Kong? But I actually kind of like how they introduced him. He's part of this like group, and for a while, he's kind of like trying to like screw Kong, but then he finally comes around and becomes his like little buddy. And I really thought the movie really takes off when we meet the Scar Kong and his whole tribe. And then they have their big fight scene. But going kind of back into the characters, they're all pretty fun. They're all pretty likable. Again, it's not really a huge cast. You're going to have like your core group of people. Again, no Alex Skarsgård. And there's another one that's not in this. And there's another person that's not in this movie that I'm kind of pretty happy about. That's Millie Bobby Brown. So she does not return in this movie. Again, it's never really mentioned, not sure why. She was in the last 2 movies. She was first established in Godzilla King of the Monsters, and then she returns in Godzilla versus Kong. I like Millie Brown for the obvious Stranger Things, but I do not like her character in these Godzilla movies. When I first saw her in King of the Monsters, maybe it was just a bit of a shock because of how much she was talking, and I'm not used to that. I've only ever seen her in Stranger Things and the Godzilla and Godzilla Kong movies. Seeing her in Godzilla King of the Monsters, I didn't like her character. I thought she talked too much. She just played kind of the generic snippy teenager. I didn't really care for her. When she came back in Godzilla versus Kong, she was a little bit better. Not as annoying. She was okay. Like her scenes with Brian Tyree Henry were pretty good because he kind of is like a big kid as well. So there's some fun stuff going on there. But when I found out that she wasn't in this movie, I was pretty okay with it. I was like, I don't really need the snippy teenager, honestly. The only child in this movie is the girl Gia, who returns. She doesn't talk. That's all sign language. It's perfect. I'm pretty good with them not bringing her back. I can see younger audiences being upset, being like, because, a lot of Millie Bobby Brown fans out there, I'm sure, that are hoping she comes back for this movie. I kind of like this small group of characters. I like the Rebecca Hall, Dan Stevens, Brian Tyree Henry. They got good chemistry. Brian Tyree Henry, Dan Stevens kind of has more of the comic stuff. Rebecca Hall is more of the serious drama, is well balanced. So that's the cast. The cast is great. The action. The action's a lot of fun. And like I said, there's not a ton of big action set pieces, but when there are, I thought it worked. Again, I'm not the biggest CGI monster fighting fan, but this movie does it well. You knew there was going to be the big finale they're building up to with monsters fighting, and it's going to be Godzilla and Kong against whatever the villain is. And it turns out that there's two big monsters, and it worked. It really was like the Bizarro World Kong and the Bizarro World Godzilla. I actually really appreciated that the fight kind of starts in Hollow Earth, but then it goes to a city. I was hoping it was going to go that way with the story. I was like, if this is just a big fight in Hollow Earth, that'll be fine. That'll be fun. But if they can manage to make it to like a big city and just be destroying buildings and stuff, I think that'd be even cooler. That's what they do. That's where they go to Brazil, and they're just destroying shit, and just people are probably getting massacred. A lot of people definitely die in this movie. Godzilla, just there's scenes of him just going to find Kong, destroying bridges, and cars are just going everywhere. So Godzilla don't give an F. He's just like, he's just killing anything. Again, I really like that fight scene, the first fight scene with Kong versus Scar Kong and Frozen Godzilla. They do some fun stuff where in the beginning they introduce that Kong needs to have a tooth removed, and I guess that's like, these would be real things that they'd have to do. So it's cool to establish that. And then it kind of comes back later where they introduce this project that they've been working on called Project Powerhouse, which is basically what you see in the trailer, the Transformers glove, which you could tell in the movie they were setting it up as this big reveal. But because you've seen the trailer, marketing blows everything. There's no surprises anymore. So yeah, I guess you have to have a Godzilla versus Kong fight at some point, which is what they do. And there's a scene of them fighting, and you can see Kong using that glove to really kind of even the match with him and Godzilla. To sum it up, for a guy that's not a fan of CGI monsters fighting, I thought this movie did a good job of CGI monsters fighting. But overall, this movie is really enjoyable. The first half hour is okay, but things definitely start to pick up at a certain point. Once Scar Kong is introduced, I thought the movie does really take off. There's fun moments between Kong and Baby Kong. There's fun moments between our main human characters. There's decent sentimental moments. I think Godzilla Kong, The New Empire is a pretty fun movie. I don't know how the diehards are going to react, the diehard Kong fans or the diehard Godzilla fans. I don't consider myself either. I really like Kong. He's still my favorite. I've definitely become more of a Godzilla fan over the years, especially since -1. The theater wasn't too animated. There were some chuckles here or there, but no big responses for the fight scenes. I saw it in IMAX. It was a pretty decent turnout for the 610 show. So there's a good amount of people, but really it was pretty quiet. But I was having a good time. I was laughing. I was getting into the action. So I'm interested to see what other people think of this, whether you're just a casual fan or a diehard fan. But anyways, that's my take on Godzilla x Kong, The New Empire, or AKA the better Frozen Empire, because Ghostbusters, I'm not forgiving you for this one.